Before the video starts, I know some people aren't going to like my opinion. So if you're offended easily or are a die-hard Apple fanboy, click off now. You know me, I'm an Android person. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fanboy. But Apple does have too many shortcomings that make it impossible for me to use their products. Personally, I did use their products at one point. My first Apple device was an iPad first generation 64GB 3G, the top of the line model then. After that product went obsolete a few years later, I got an iPod Touch 5th generation for several reasons. It was basically the same thing as an iPhone 5 released the same year for a fraction of the price. Also, Apple was the only thing I knew. I hadn't been exposed to Android yet. My first Android smartphone was a Moto G1, a mid-range $200 phone, a hand-me-down which compared nicely with my 1-year-old iPod. It wasn't hard to make the switch, since I had no other choice but to accept the phone my parents graciously provided for me. I realized the potential for Android very quickly, and the Motorola became my daily driver. I now own a Moto G4, the 4th generation of the same phone. I consider this phone to be a competitor of the iPhone 8 Plus, even though the prices were miles apart. Now about Apple's shortcomings again. Customization is horrible. If you have an app, it is permanently stuck on your home screen until you delete it. As for the stock apps, you can't even get rid of them or even hide them for that matter. The best you can do is chuck it into a folder somewhere and hope you forget about it. Android is all about customization. If you want an app right in the middle of your home screen, well, there you go. If you have an app that you don't necessarily need all the time, you can still remove it from your home screen without even uninstalling it. It's still there for you to use right in your app drawer. Also, on Android, there are these things called widgets, mini apps that can provide very helpful information right on your home screen, anywhere you want it. For example, mini calendars, clocks, emails, bookmarks, and other apps. Connectivity on Apple devices is simply horrendous. What do you do if you want to connect an external keyboard or mice? The only thing you can do is get a Bluetooth keyboard and pray that it is compatible. As for the mice, you can't even use those. On Android, most devices have a non-proprietary micro-USB interface, meaning more people can take advantage of the standard and make products for it. With an inexpensive adapter called USB OTG, you can connect any standard USB peripheral to your phone. Anything from keyboards, mice, gamepads, flash drives, and even a hard disk drive for more storage. On Apple, there is no such thing. What you get is what you get. No extra storage, hardware, no nothing. About bad design again. That pesky home button. This poor button has to do 5 tasks. Press once for home, twice for multitasking, 3 times for accessibility features, hold for Siri, and brush twice for one-handed use. Also, the use of a tactile button makes the experience less seamless, since everything else is on the screen. Android doesn't have this problem, since stock Android uses 3 capacitive buttons on screen, which makes things a lot more seamless and streamlined. And they're also easy to use too. The square for multitasking, the circle for home, and the triangle for back. This is also a major feature Apple's phones suffer from. To go back, either you have to awkwardly reach for the top left corner, or if an app supports it, swipe from the left. Another thing about bad design. Those speakers. After all this time, they are still on the bottom, for the standard models at least. The new iPhone 8 has supposedly stereo speakers, but they both output the same sound. That makes them technically dual mono, not stereo. Apple has little innovation nowadays. A lot of the new quote-unquote features are just sales gimmicks. Wow, an emoji that copies your expression. Wow, finally a quad or higher core CPU. Wow, a slightly faster GPU and CPU. Android has had these features, and more, for several years now. Android phones have had even Octa, yes, that's 8 cores for several years now, and even my budget Motorola has 8 cores. Facial recognition has been out on Android since Android 5 Lollipop, released in 2014. Since Android 7, we've had split-screen multitasking, even on small phones. On iOS, you still have to bump up to an iPad to do that. I have an iPod 5th generation still, and a family member has an iPhone 7. I traded devices, and I personally could not tell the difference, except for a slightly bigger screen, something I was already used to on Android. One more final shortcoming I have, but I'm sure there are more, is overpricing. Look at the price of their newest flagship smartphone, the iPhone 8 Plus. Look at the price, $800! I'm not sure about you, but $800 is not something I would be willing to drop on a smartphone. At least not regularly. But maybe you can, so I applaud you. But making the price so high, the only choice for their new iPhone, is ridiculous. On Android, you can go as high-end or low-end as you want. Some Android smartphones start at just $20, and you can only go more high-end from there. Getting an Apple device is starting to be a very major investment that not everyone can make anymore. On Android, you can get a device that fits your budget, not a budget that fits your phone. My personal choice was the Moto G4. But why, you may ask? Well, I think it compares favorably to the newest iPhone 8 Plus. Yes, the Plus model. First of all, they share the same screen size and resolution, 5.5 inches, 1080p. My Motorola has 2 more cores in the iPhone and runs at a higher clock speed, up to 1.5 GHz, versus the iPhone's 1.31 GHz. The G4 has a 13 megapixel camera, which has a higher resolution than the 12 megapixel one on the iPhone. Both have a dual flash and a fingerprint reader. But the best part is that my Motorola G4 is only $170 right now, making it over 4 times cheaper for arguably better features. Also, obviously, it runs Android, an operating system that, in my opinion, is superior. Let's say you want to switch to Android. First, find a device. For first-timers, I suggest using something with stock or near-stock Android, like the Motorola that I use. Then, the learning curve. The learning curve is not as steep as you think. All those features and options I highlighted before, they are all optional, meaning you do not have to take advantage of them. You can leave all your apps on the home screen for all I care. The biggest learning curve, I think, is the capacitive on-screen buttons. They will take some getting used to, but they are easy to learn. And if you're concerned about all your personal files like photos and documents, the easiest way to transfer them is through Google Drive, which offers 15 gigabytes of free storage and is cross-platform. And when it comes time to switch to a new Android phone, it is the easiest process in the world. If you are signed in on a Google account on the old one, all your apps and data will sync up with your new Android when you set it up. Consider your options. You could continue to serve Apple and use their products, or you can free yourself from their walls and see the light. Whatever your choice is, I hope I made a difference. I hope to see all of you with new Android phones soon. Thank you guys so very much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button just below this video. If you'd like to watch more from me, I've picked out 2 videos on the left just for you. If you'd like to subscribe, there's my icon on the right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! No one watches this far in the video, do they?